Trust me, he's athletic, but he's no Lamar Jackson.
Edwards. Oh, he got a block from Brown, and Brown again. The receiver Brown, the tackle Brown. That's an 11-yard touchdown run. Gus Edwards.
At the end of this run, watch the receivers down the field. You're going to see John Brown get a block and Michael Crabtree.
Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome into the Mobtown Blitz podcast. I'm your host, Kyle J. Andrews, and you can follow me on Twitter at KyleJAndrews_. And then I am here with Eric Himmelheber and Anthony Barkley. How's it going, guys? And where can we follow you guys at?
What's going on, man? This is Anthony Barkley. You can find me at A Barkley, AYEEBARKLEY.
What's up, guys? It's Eric Himmelheber. You can follow me on Twitter at EHIMMELHEBER.
All right, so as always, we are proud to do this podcast for one of the top sports websites in the district, DMVSportsNetwork.com, and they can be followed on Twitter and Instagram at DMV_SN. They have some great daily content up there on all things DC sports and Baltimore sports, in addition to college sports and a lot more, so that after you listen to this podcast, go ahead and check it out. In addition, please be sure to subscribe on our show wherever podcasts are available, and that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So, what are we going to be talking about today? I think, one thing that is for certain, what's going on with this Le'Veon Bell stuff? Like, we got to get into that.
Let's sign him. You guys say that you don't want to sign him, and I don't understand why not.
No. I agreed that we should sign him, but I said we need offensive linemen first.
I feel like signing Le'Veon Bell would attract offensive linemen to come and block for one of the league's best, not one of the league's best running back.
Okay, then let me rephrase that. If we sign Le'Veon Bell, then our next priority needs to be offensive linemen above everything else.
That I will agree with you with. Yes.
Yeah.
But that also means they have to draft offensive linemen in the first place. And I think the Ravens, the best way they usually build is through the draft. So I think they need to keep trying to get those offensive linemen in the draft. It's a couple guys that I've talked about in the past. I like Cody Ford out of Oklahoma. I think he's a big bruiser. He's the kind of guy that can pound through and keep those running lanes open, but he can also pass block real well. And I think he would be a good person to pair alongside of, somebody like Ronnie Stanley, or even if you need to swing him over to right guard and play next to his buddy Orlando Brown Jr., I think that would be a good move as well. What do you guys think?
Well, this is going to be a real interesting draft because the Ravens only have 6 picks this year. A first, a third, a fourth.
A fifth and 2 6.
Yeah. So they're going to have to be really, really strategic what they're going to do here. And then, obviously we know we need offensive linemen. Hopefully we can try to find some in the offseason via free agency. But like Kyle said, the best thing that the Ravens go about building their roster is through the draft.
Honestly, the fact that they only have 6 picks, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back from the first round pick and get more picks in the second and third round.
Yeah. You don't think we're going to pick in the first?
No, not with 6 picks. No.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because I think that they're going to trade some guys away. And I think that's going to be that's going to be the reason why they are able to still pick in the first round, because I think it's a lot of good first rounders out there, especially offensive linemen.
There's definitely an offensive line draft.
And receivers as well. I'm looking at some of these receivers like N'Keal Harry, and I'm going blank on his name, but he's from Ole Miss.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm going blank too.
Yeah, why am I going blank on his name? But you guys know what I'm talking about with, some of the way that they've been that they can draft. I'm just looking at their draft class. And I think they need to hit on receiver. They need to hit at O-line.
Talking about DK Metcalf?
Yep, DK Metcalf. That is the exact person that I'm talking about.
So if we're going to draft a receiver, so does that mean that you guys don't have any kind of faith in Jordan Lasley and Jaleel Scott, who we just drafted last year?
No. None.
I mean, I have faith in Jordan Lasley, but we haven't seen anything from Jaleel Scott yet. He's a complete unknown. Jordan Lasley, on the other hand, I've seen him practice every day. I've seen him continually get better. I've seen his route running get better. I've seen his hands get better. You know, he's a promising prospect, but he was also a 5th-round pick. My thing is, you don't want to just rely on guys that you got, especially if you're Eric DeCosta. You don't want to rely on a previous regime's, you know, picks. You don't want to do that, and especially since they haven't been able to hit at that receiver position. What gives you any kind of faith if you're Eric DeCosta in some of Ozzy's receiver picks, because he hasn't hit on any of them except for Torrey Smith? And I'm looking at, like, you know, some of the past. Yeah, Jordan Lasley, I think, can continually get better because he showed flashes when he was at UCLA. If Jordan Lasley had been, you know, I guess more consistent when he was at UCLA, some people are talking about him going as high as the 2nd round. So for him to fall to the 5th round, I feel like that's good for the Ravens, and that's a good find. But Jaleel Scott, I'm looking at him and I'm like, what has he done yet? He hasn't shown me anything because he was injured. When he was playing and practicing and everything, he was getting bullied because he was too skinny. You know, he's 6'6", but he's 210 pounds. He was getting beat up. So, I mean, it's not to say that he can't be good, but I wouldn't have full trust in him if I'm the Ravens. And then I think Jordan Lasley, you got to ease him in. I think he can be very good, but I feel like he's a person that you have to ease in, and you have to complement him with other receivers that do different things with him, just as they did before.
All right, so if you're saying that the Ravens, which historically they have not drafted receiver well at all, outside of Torrey Smith, I really can't think of any other receivers that the Ravens drafted that have actually had pretty decent careers.
Jackson did, didn't he?
Jackson.
What was it?
See, if you can't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, that, if he can't remember it, then, you know.
Man, I was 1 year old when he was playing.
Well, Michael Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't picked by the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, with that being said, like, what have they done? What have they done that I'm just like, man, you know, they actually have been able to pick receivers. He got picked by the Browns, by the way.
There you go.
So, I mean,
just so he came over.
So he came over, but he wasn't, you know, part of the team when they came over to the Ravens. Like, he wasn't drafted by Ozzy or any other GM that the Ravens had. So
I'm just saying, Lamar said that he had a lot of chemistry with Jordan and the other receivers last year. You know, they all came in together as that rookie crop. So I think Hayden, Mark Andrews, Jordan, Jaleel, you know, I have faith in those guys that they could possibly put something together and, along with Lamar, just have like this amazing offensive core that we have never seen before. But like we said, we don't really draft receiver well. So with only 6 picks, I'm just saying give them a shot and then try to build through pass rushers, offensive line, defensive backs, particularly safety position.
And Le'Veon Bell.
And Le'Veon Bell.
But I think the dilemma with the Ravens is that while they need an offensive lineman and they need wide receivers too, but the free agency for wide receivers is pretty bad. Like Randall Cobb, Dante Moncrief, and Tavon Austin are the 3 top receivers in free agency right now.
Tavon can come back home. He's from here.
You know Tavon's been a bust, though.
Yeah.
He's been a bust. So, I mean, working with the receivers we have might be the option we have to go with.
I mean, in all honesty, if I'm the Ravens right now, I really like Deshaun Jackson. I think Deshaun Jackson would be a good fit for this Ravens team because, you know, you could throw him a slant and he would be gone. And he, you know, Deshaun Jackson, yeah, everybody talks about how, like, you know, I feel like he's a person that is going to go out of his way now in this point of his career to be a leader. And it's not like he was ever a horrible teammate, you know. When everybody talked about, like, when Michael Crabtree got picked up, they were like, Michael Crabtree is a diva, et cetera, et cetera. He kind of lived up to, you know, some of it in the sense of, like, the media, but when it came to being a teammate, Michael Crabtree was a very good teammate. You know, he might have been a little bit enigmatic with, you know, the media, and maybe that's the same way people feel about Deshaun Jackson, maybe, I don't know. But I think Deshaun Jackson would be a very good fit for this football team, in my honest opinion. I just think him on a slant route is something that everybody always talked about, how, like, the Ravens wanted to get slant routes going with, like, Brashad Perriman. But Deshaun Jackson is one of those people that can run routes so well, and he's so quick that if he takes even at this point in his career, if he takes that ball, he's gone. Right. You know, get him open.
Well, I mean, going back to doing the slant routes, you know, that's kind of the key thing in the RPO. You see those slant routes right across the middle. It's a real easy read to make. So Deshaun would be really good for that. But we were talking about trading and draft picks. We got to talk about the elephant in the room. Do we trade Joe Flacco? And if so, to who? And if so, to who? What's the price for him? You know, what's a decent asking price for a Super Bowl MVP who got replaced by a rookie?
I don't think they're going to get more than a 5th-round pick for him, because teams know he's going to be. Yeah, I don't think teams know they're going to release him anyway. So it's just going to be one of those things where it's like, we got to get whatever we can for Flacco.
I mean, I think personally, if I'm the Ravens, I'm going to try to move Flacco. I'm definitely going to try to move him.
Get that salary off the books.
I mean, I just think, like, if they do try to move him, you know, where are some of the places that you guys think he could go? I think personally, you gotta start off with any of the 3 Florida teams, and I think you also gotta look at Denver. You gotta go not far away at all to look at the Washington football team, whose name is so annoying that I'm not even gonna say. I'm just messing with you. It's just fun making fun of that name, but, you know, well, not making fun of it. It's messed up, but that's neither here nor there. I still think Joe Flacco would be, I mean, he'll be an upgrade over whatever they have. Colt McCoy just isn't going to do you any good right now. He
snapped his leg last year, so Colt McCoy probably won't even play next year. But how funny would that be if Joe went to the team where he threw the Hail Mary on to go to the Super Bowl? Well, on the path to the Super Bowl, then go to Denver. Like you said, the 3 Florida teams, I'm really looking at Miami for a destination that Joe to go to. That either Miami or Jacksonville. It'd be a much upgrade over Blake Bortles if he does go to Jacksonville, and he has a stud defense, so he wouldn't really have to do too much.
And then I think that the biggest thing is, you know, with Joe, I just feel like if he goes to Miami, I think that's a perfect fit. And I was thinking back on it too. Bruce Arians is coming into Tampa Bay, so Jameis Winston is going to be that guy. I just remembered that, but and he has full faith in Jameis Winston. I don't know why, but he has full faith in Jameis Winston. I think Joe Flacco will be an upgrade over Jameis Winston, but, you know, it is what it is. But then when it comes to looking at some of the stuff that, you know, Miami has right now, they're getting a coach that was with the Patriots, with Brian Flores. He's a defensive-minded guy. You know, he's had experience looking at, you know, I guarantee you from Bill Belichick respects the heck out of the Ravens. So I think some of that has trickled down to the assistant coaches too. They're always going to respect the Ravens. So I think Brian Flores is thinking in his mind, okay, I'm a young coach. You know, I got to get things started eventually. I mean, people aren't really, I mean, he wants to build things the right way. He doesn't want to build things and, you know, he doesn't want to spaz out and make it just immediately go. You see some of these young coaches, they'll immediately draft a quarterback. They'll immediately get all these things. Miami, I feel like they're trying to go in a different direction. They're trying to get a guy that has that talent as a coach and has that promise as a coach, but also can think, hey, well, maybe I got to bring in some smart guys, some older guys too. I'm going to bring in some smart young guys and some smart older guys on my staff and at quarterback just to teach these guys. Because I think Joe Flacco, you get him for like 2-3 years. You sign him to, I mean, if they sign or trade for him, I think they're going to keep him for at least 2-3 years. And I think Joe would be a really good fit for a Miami team that's trying to get everything together and to have somebody that they can trust in and somebody that's had that success.
Just piggybacking off of what you said, it's just going to be real interesting to see what they're going to do, how they're going to move Joe, get that huge salary off the books. That's going to help us out in the offseason with free agents. And then, like I said, if we can trade them, hopefully for something better than a 5th-round pick.
I'm being realistic. Yeah, I'm just being realistic. Seriously, if we're going to trade, like I said, teams already know the Ravens are going to move on from Joe Flacco. So they're just going to try to get whatever they can in a trade for him.
Or they're going to get Nick Foles.
The Ravens are going to get Nick Foles?
No, the Ravens aren't going to get Nick Foles.
Oh, I was going to say, no. That's not happening.
Yep, Ravens are moving on from Lamar Jackson. We're just going to move on with Nick Foles.
Oh, hey.
No, I'm saying, you know, I'm saying Miami would probably think about getting Nick Foles, and I think that, you know, maybe for them that's a more feasible option.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins getting Nick Foles is probably smart in terms of salary cap. The Dolphins only have a little over $11 million right now. I mean, they can restructure contracts and release certain players, but if we're talking about teams more, you know, salary cap wise safer for Joe Flacco to go to, Jacksonville is around $48 million in cap space. Broncos $36 million, Cardinals around $49 million. And I think that would be another interesting team for Joe Flacco to go to, actually, is the Cardinals.
That's very interesting. I never thought about that, only because the biggest thing with Joe is that you would think he would go to a team. They got Josh Rosen's there, and they got Cliff Kingsbury, who is a quarterback's whisperer. And for them to go and be like, okay, well, we're just going to go with something completely different and just pick up, you know, Joe Flacco instead. I just think that's I think the only reason why they wouldn't sign Flacco is because they know they're not Super Bowl contenders, and Joe Flacco is just going to help them win some more games, but they're not going to contend. I think Flacco will go to the Redskins because before Alex Smith got injured, the Redskins were pushing for the division, and Joe Flacco is basically another Alex Smith. They've drawn comparisons or similarities to each other throughout their entire careers, and I think if Flacco goes to the Redskins and they can remain healthy, which is a big if for the Redskins, the Redskins could have a shot at winning the division with Flacco as their quarterback. I think if Washington got Flacco, it would make a lot of sense, only because he can push the ball downfield. You want a quarterback that can throw through the wind, that can, you know, do all these, you know, great things when it comes to getting the ball downfield, especially when it gets cold outside. You don't want a quarterback that's going to noodle on himself. I mean, you play in the NFC East. You don't play in some, you know, willy-nilly division where it doesn't get cold. You don't play in the NFC West, you know, where everybody plays in domes, and except for Seattle, Seattle plays in nastiness a lot. But other than them, who else is it really, you know? And then with that being said, we have to get to the middle of our show. And then, so during this time, we want to take a chance to shout out all the other shows that we do. And then it's time to tell you about DMV Sports Network's library of podcasts. Right now, we have 9 active shows, including our own show, Mobtown Podcast. The shows with the Redskins, Capitals, Nationals, Wizards, and Fantasy Fever, dealing with all things fantasy football. A pair of mixed bag shows from It's About Time DC and Dom and Thunder, and a debate show, DMV Dispute, which is available live stream on Twitter. All these shows are available wherever podcasts can be found, so please check these out. And if you like any of these shows, please leave a review or even subscribe on all platforms. And now we got to get to the Super Bowl. And it's only going to take a little bit to talk about because that was a horrible Super Bowl. That was one of the worst Super Bowls I've ever watched in my entire life. And we'll literally.
God, it sucked.
Eric's face right now is hilarious.
Oh my God.
I actually enjoyed it. Everyone keeps downplaying the Super. Now everyone's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Because you are.
I thoroughly enjoyed the Super Bowl.
Why?
How did you enjoy that Super Bowl? That was one of the most boring Super Bowls that I've ever had the misfortune to watch in my entire natural born life. And you should be ashamed of yourself for liking that Super Bowl. It was manure. It was manure. It was poop. That was one of the worst Super Bowls ever, and you think it was good. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I genuinely want to hear why you thought this was a great Super Bowl.
Yeah, just explain yourself, man. Explain.
You can't, can you? You can't.
So not only am I being laughed at, I'm also getting kicked out of the room. Okay, this is why I enjoyed the Super Bowl. The defensive chess match that was the entire game. And now everyone's just putting their hand over their head. You know what?
Well, I'm leaving.
Leave while I talk about this, okay? I thought it was absolutely brilliant how New England held one of the highest scoring teams to 3 points. 3 points.
You mean the Rams failed to score more than 3 points?
I need this back. I'm taking my rightful place because that was one of the worst Super Bowls that I've ever had the misfortune to watch. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm not ashamed. I thoroughly enjoyed it, even though I hated seeing Brady win, which I predicted last week.
All right, enough about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was awful. I don't care what anybody.
So if it wasn't awful, what did you think about that halftime show? It sucked, didn't it?
No, I like the halftime show. I like Maroon 5.
They did not play Sweet Victory.
Oh my God, they played a snippet of it.
That's not good enough.
That was like 3 seconds.
Everyone got to complain about something, man. Why y'all
They
complaining?
had the M's set for Maroon 5 when it should have been set to W for Wumbo.
I Wumbo, you Wumbo.
He, she, we, Wombo. All right, that Super Bowl was awful, so I'm gonna move on from that because I needed, how many hours was that? It was like 3-4 hours I need back of my life because as soon as it was over, and not only that, but the commercials were crap too. The commercials were poop.
There were only two.
It was like 2 good commercials.
Which ones?
I think the NFL commercial 100. Everybody, that was consensus. Okay, what were the other 2 in your opinion?
The Audi commercial where the guy was like daydreaming about his father giving him the Audi, but then he was like choking something on the office, and like the lady had to do like the Heimlich maneuver.
Okay, that was
hilarious.
I don't know, that T-Mobile commercial where that person was texting a Lyft driver the entire time, and he was like, "You're always here for me."
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
I know I am. I'm your Lyft driver. I'm outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think those were pretty good ones too. I mean, what were the other ones that you guys thought?
Twilight Zone is coming back.
Okay.
What?
How
we not mentioned Avengers Endgame?
Okay, but that wasn't a commercial. That was a trailer. Like, my thing is, of course, Avengers is a given, dude. Like, we all know Avengers is good. That's a given. Like, Avengers is good. That's gonna be the greatest movie of all time, probably.
It's not better than Black Panther. I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, if he was serious.
Coming from a dude who said this Super Bowl was actually entertaining.
It was entertaining. I was thoroughly impressed that a bunch of no ones from New England. But
then they still gave it to Julian Edelman. Why? Why did you give the MVP award to Julian Edelman?
Because he was the only one that really went off.
Yeah, but it was defensive players that played much better. Stephon Gilmore had a very good game.
Did he get a pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Stephon Gilmore should have won.
He had a sack too.
Yeah, he shut down Cooks the entire game too. Yeah, Gilmore probably should have won it.
So, I mean, all in all, they've done everything. They did literally everything wrong. And on top of that, then these idiots, yes, I'm talking about a lot of other people in the sports media. Yes, I know I'm in sports media for a living. But a lot of these fools in sports media are asking, is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer?
Oh, my God.
No, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not one.
No,
Stop it.
When I saw Adam Schefter post that on Twitter and Facebook, I had to throw my computer on the other side of the room. He is not a Hall of Famer, and it's not even close. The stats don't even add up to back up that argument. Nah, he's not a Hall of Famer. Not even close.
It's other receivers that aren't in the Hall of Fame that are way better than him. And other receivers that first of all, it takes receivers forever to get in the Hall of Fame. Secondly, Steve Smith's a Hall of Famer. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he's going to get in the Hall of Fame eventually, or at least he should. And if he doesn't, if Steve Smith doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, you know good and well, it is no question that Julian Edelman will never, ever even sniff the Hall of Fame. And if you guys think he will, you're wrong. It's as simple as that. And that's the bottom line, because Kyle J. Andrews said so.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I can't believe you just went there. But you know what the best part about that Super Bowl it gave us? Was that epic rant from Trey Wingo.
Let me just say this about that. And I'm throwing out the disclaimer. I am not the audience the NFL is trying to reach.
You're right. That's right.
I'm throwing that out there, okay? Because I've been all in since I can remember watching football. So they don't have. I've never watched a game for an announcer. I've never watched a game to be. I love the game. Okay, I love the game. I appreciated the brilliance of the coaching, and that was enough for me.
Right.
What drove me crazy yesterday, including some of our colleagues here. Oh, this game is boring. Oh, entertain me, please. Make me want to watch.
Is that so much
Shut
to
up.
ask?
Just shut up. If you don't want to watch, then don't watch. Go watch the Raptors and the Knicks. Go do something else. But don't sit there for 4 flipping hours with your eyes glued to the game and say, oh, this is so boring, but I can't stop watching. Oh, it's so boring. Just shut the hell up.
Wow, okay.
I mean, give me a break. If you don't want to watch it, then don't watch it. But don't watch the game and sit there and go, oh, I hate it. That's the worst. And you people that did that, you're the worst. The absolute worst. Yeah, Jerry, we'll tell them. I don't want to hear any of that garbage. If you don't want to watch the game, don't watch the game. But don't sit there watching the game and saying, oh, I'm so bored. I can't take it anymore. Give me a break.
Trey Wingo's opinion does not reflect the opinion of the Golic and Wingo.
Yes, it
staff.
does.
No, it
yes,
doesn't.
it
No.
does.
And that was Straight Talk.
Jerry,
Brought to you by
does it?
Straight Talk Wireless.
It does.
I'm not even going that far. I'm not even going that far.
Just stop your whining.
The next day, he was like, just shut up. Shut
He
up.
was doing that for views. Because you saw right after he ended his rant, he was like, okay, back to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell that was so scripted.
I thought it was hilarious, but like I said, I enjoyed the Super Bowl. Y'all can facepalm me all you want. You can try to kick me out the room all you want.
But the thing about Trey is, it was boring. And everybody's like, well, and he said, well, if it's boring, then you should have turned it off. No, it's still a close game. You watch the Super Bowl until the game is finally over. That entire rant was so dumb.
My manager at my other job said she fell asleep during the Super Bowl because she thought it was so boring. But I liked it, so whatever.
I mean, I know one thing with Trey Wingo. He sounds like those old people that complain about millennials. If you hate this country so much, you can just leave. I'm like, but don't you want things to improve? I know that has nothing to do with football, but it's the same kind of thing. You always want things to improve, and that Super Bowl needed improvement. It was awful. And he just went on an old man, I hate millennials rant. And I was just like, dude, relax. Like, that is not you, Trey Wingo. Trey Wingo is usually the most calm and collected human being known to man on sports talk radio. Or even on, like, when he's doing the show. When he was doing NFL Live, Trey Wingo was calm. He would say some things that I disagreed with a lot of times, especially when he would just go on his, oh, Joe Flacco isn't that good of a quarterback rants. But, you know, is what it is.
Well, I think Wingo, he was born in Connecticut, I think it was. So, you know, he's probably a Patriots fan, too.
That's fair enough. And he's in Connecticut with ESPN.
Yeah.
4-letter network, you know. But to close out the show, we got to talk about one last thing. And we only got about 3 minutes to talk about it. That's the AAF. And it starts tonight. And the Ravens, their affiliate, Arizona Hotshots. I don't know when they play, but I'm interested to see the Arizona Hotshots and like some other team. I'm just interested to see the AAF in general Because it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good football. It's going to be on national television.
I think this is going to be another tool for like everyone's scouting, every team scouts to get more tape on players, especially playing at the professional level now. So now, I mean, this could be like a certified G League or what the NFL Europa used to be, and now we just have it in the States. So it's going to be really interesting to see if it can take hold, if it can garner fans, and if the product on the field is actually going to be somewhat decent. You know, I mean, we've seen these arena leagues. We've seen the XFL that's coming back next year. So, I mean, is the AAF going to snuff up to decent product of football? What do you think?
Go Josh Woodrum.
Oh, my goodness. These guys have been here talking about Josh Woodrum for the longest. I don't...
Ravens fans, Josh Woodrum is the starting quarterback for the Salt Lake City Stallions. So become a Stallions fan, even though they're not affiliated with the Ravens.
Josh Woodrum's probably the best preseason quarterback that the Ravens
of
have
all
ever.
time.
Oh, my God.
Josh Woodrum, if you're listening to this podcast,
Can we get Josh Woodrum on the pod?
we might. You know what? Shout out Salt Lake City Stallions quarterback Josh Woodrum, who has been number one in the hearts of many Ravens fans out there.
Particularly this one.
Particularly Eric Himmelheber. But I will say one thing. I'm looking forward to the Memphis Express only because, but I've been around Memphis and I see how hyped the city has gotten just over this team and the fact that they're bringing professional football to that city. I mean, a lot of these cities had never had professional football, or if they did, it was for a brief period of time. Like Memphis, they had the Tennessee Titans for a year, or they were the Oilers for a year, but then they left. And I think this is going to be great because a lot of these places are college football towns, and they get to see. The best part about this league is that a lot of these guys are from those local colleges that play not too far in those areas. You know, you get Ole Miss players, you get Memphis players, you get Tennessee players, you get all these other guys that have had these connections with that state. So, and I think Birmingham.
That's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, because you know how big of a football town Alabama is. So them having a AAF team, God, I can't even say it right.
The Alliance of American Football.
Yeah. But yeah, now that they have a team, you know, it could probably draw a big fan base for them. So it'll be interesting to watch, to be honest.
So let me get this straight. You have Josh Woodrum and the rest of Salt Lake. Josh Woodrum and them.
Mormon country.
And you were about to ask me, I'm assuming, why am I interested in Memphis?
I just want to say, so you have Memphis. I'm going to go with the Arizona Hotshots.
I mean, they're the Ravens affiliate. It makes sense.
I'm only going with the Arizona Hotshots because my boy Josh Huff from the University of Oregon is on there. Go Ducks.
They're the Oregon affiliate, by the way. I mean, it's interesting. Like, I got to look this article up, but it's an article on the Smoke and Musket from SB Nation. That's West Virginia's SB Nation site, if you guys aren't familiar with them. But they wrote about, like, some of the affiliates with the AAF. And I just think that, I mean, that to me is really cool that a lot of these teams, college teams and pro teams, the NFL, they have affiliates and stuff. I mean, that has to be one of the coolest things in the world, right? I mean, they always tell everybody, they're like, okay, what team, they ask, I mean, I guess some people, they're like, which team should you like? So specifically, this is one thing that I want to say. If you are a Ravens fan, like I said, Arizona Hotshots are the affiliate of the Baltimore Ravens, but they're also the affiliate of the Arizona Cardinals, Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers. And then you have, as well, for some of the other Western Conference teams, you have the Salt Lake City Stallions, as we mentioned before. Woo! That's Josh Woodrum. He's starting for them. Also a former Raven. Denver Broncos are their affiliate, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, Seattle Seahawks. And then you have the San Antonio Commanders, Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. And then lastly, on the Western Conference side, you have the Detroit Lions, who were paired with the San Diego Fleet, as well as the LA Chargers, LA Rams, and the Oakland Raiders. And then when you go up to the eastern side of it all, the Orlando Apollos, they are the NFL affiliate of the Dolphins, the Giants, the Jets, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got the Memphis Express, who we mentioned far too many times at this point, with Christian Hackenberg starting at quarterback. Shout out Penn State. Cincinnati Bengals, Indianapolis Colts, Tennessee Titans, and New Orleans Saints. And you got the Birmingham Iron. Of course, the Alabama to New England Patriots pipeline is strong. It's annoying. Buffalo Bills, Cleveland Browns, and Pittsburgh Steelers. And then you also have the Atlanta Legends that we mentioned before. That, of course, the Falcons, that's a no-brainer. The Carolina Panthers, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Washington Redskins.
It just sounds like, a nice little G League here for the NFL. Hopefully this works. Hopefully that the product on the field is somewhat decent. And let's see, who can be the first AAF star to come back to the NFL or go to the NFL and make a name for themselves. That's going to be the real test of this football league. Because I think that's what they want to do, is they want to get like a good percentage of them back into the NFL.
Nah, you wrapped it up nicely.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just interested to see in general. I think this is going to be a really good league just to start things off. I mean, and then in week one, starting tonight, and this is Saturday. This podcast is going to release tomorrow, so there'll be a couple of finals afterwards. But Atlanta, they're at Orlando. They're playing on CBS. And then San Diego's playing against San Antonio, also on CBS. Both games are at 8 p.m. They're both going to be played on CBS. So if you're on the East Coast and you're listening to this podcast, which is most likely most of our listeners, then you're going to be watching Atlanta versus Orlando. If you are on the West Coast, you're going to be watching San Diego at San Antonio. And then Memphis is playing against Birmingham on CBS Network at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Salt Lake City is playing against Arizona at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on NFL Network tomorrow. And with that being said, we got to close this thing out. Which one of you guys want to do it?
I think before we close, though, we got to, this is a sad day here in Baltimore. This might be a Ravens podcast, but we have to just say rest in peace to the great Frank Robinson of the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, it was a really tough week for sports fans here. Anyone would share their thoughts on Frank before we close out?
Wish I was alive to watch him play.
I say the same.
And I think the biggest thing with Frank, especially, not just for me and Anthony because we are black, but like Frank Robinson blazed a path for us that, it's just unmatched, some of the things that he did for the community of Baltimore, because you just think about this, like he had to come to Baltimore in a time where it was so much civil unrest between, people of different ethnicities. You had a bunch of people that were moving in from other countries and, black people who were here for a long time along with people who were also white. And, people just didn't get along. People died. And, the civil rights movement, you saw so many people get gunned down and sprayed with water hoses. And he had to live through that time. And he made it through that time to play baseball and then to become the first black manager. So I think for somebody to have to do all of that and have to go through all of that, hats off to you, Frank. Rest in peace. And I'm glad that you played in Baltimore. I'm glad that, you got to do so many great things for this community. And I'm also glad that, you taught us that you could be great no matter who you were, where you came from. And that, to me, is the American dream.
That was really beautifully put, Kyle. Thank you. And that's going to do it for us here. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, please subscribe to us wherever podcasts are available. And even if, leave a review for us on iTunes, and that'll help grow. And, we can reach out more Ravens fans across the country. You can find me, Anthony, on Twitter and Instagram at Barkley, AYEEBARKLEY. And Eric?
You can find me on Twitter at Himmelheber, EHIMMELHEBER.
And you can follow me, Kyle J. Andrews, on at Kyle J. Andrews _ on Twitter.
Don't forget to check out the DMVSportsNetwork.com.
Don't laugh.
You can follow me on the cow. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at DMV_SA.
All right, say it for real this time, please.
Follow DMV Sports Network at Twitter and Instagram on DMV_SN. And if you want to join the team, contact them via Twitter, the website, or shoot them an email at DMVSportsNetwork@outlook.com.
Shout out to the team.
Shout out to DMV Sports Network. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.